Hey everybody, how you doing? Hope you're having a great weekend. I'm going to put out a quick video this weekend just to go through some of my favorite setups coming into next week. So I'm not going to waste a lot of time. I'll just go ahead and get right into it. First one here is SM Energy. This has this level here around $28. It was resistance back in January. Again in May, July couldn't crack it, and then finally announced earnings last Thursday, pushed above and closed above that level, and Friday held there. So really like this one above that 28 level, and I did take a position in this one late last week. So next one is WPX Energy. This one, similar setup. It has this area around 1950 that's been resistance here, here, here. They announced earnings. Hasn't cracked it yet, but if it can get above and close above around 1950 to 1975, I'd be tempted to get long this name. Next one is COHU. This one has an area here around, we'll call it 2625 to 2650 is resistance back last fall. Couldn't crack it in June, July, kind of went above it intraday there, but couldn't close. Again, a couple weeks later, and had a nice push Friday with some decent volume. So if it can push up a little bit off that level, I'd like to see a close above 2650 to 2625. I'm sorry, 2675 to get me interested, but this is one I'm watching coming into next week. CTXS. This has an area here around $109. It was, resistance a couple times, kind of danced around it. Then they announced on their earnings, they went up, big gap up, big volume here, and they've kind of backfilled that gap, which also coincides with the former resistance here around $109. You could see that line, and it looks like it wants to start curling up. So this is one that I bought late last week. So when I bought this one, I'm looking for half of my shares. I'd look to take gains if it could retest those old highs, and then the other half, this is in a nice longer term uptrend. I would hold on to for longer term and hopefully larger gains. But I do like this setup, still actionable as it stands right now. So one to put on your radar for next week, CTXS. Another one is DVA, DaVita Healthcare. They recently announced earnings and were able to push above the 73 area. As resistance here and here. Closed above it and pushed off it. So I'm kind of just watching this one right now, but I do like the trade potential. We can come back, test those old, highs around there, around $80 for a shorter term target. So I do like this setup. Nice risk reward over that yellow highlight, which was the June highs and the March highs there. Next one is MCRI, Monarch Casino. It looks a little sloppy here recently. I'm going to zoom out to the weekly chart. Looks a lot cleaner. You can see this area around $48, just below $48. That's where the resistance was here. Couldn't push above it in May. Couldn't do it again in June. And then it looks like it wants to move up here. So if this one could push up just a bit, maybe $1 or so, up to about $49, this would be one that I'd look at from the long side above that yellow with a stop a little bit below that box. So another one I'm watching next week. This one's an ETF, ITA, Dow Jones Aerospace and Defense Fund. Again, this is working on a breakout here of a level it's tested many times this year, around 206, 207. So if we can get a close there, this is one I'd look to get long, and also one I'd look at the individual components too to see which ones may be setting up. But I really like this, the looks of this ETF. If it can push above, 207, get a close up there. Looks very nice risk reward there from the long side. This one, watch out, has earnings 8:10. Most of these that I've put in my video this weekend I have earnings already gone, but this one does not. But the setup looks very tempting here. This 1350 area, same thing, resistance, pushed above it with some decent volume on Thursday. Friday had some nice follow through. So one I'll be watching next week. I don't know, with earnings so close, if I do get long, it'll be a smaller size position. And then I'll just have to make the game time decision if I'm going to hold it through earnings. But usually I stay away when earnings are this close. But we do have a full trading week before they announce, so there is a little bit of time. So that's why I included it here. But I do like this above that 1350 area. Little different trade set. This one's kind of similar to CTXS. This is THR. This has this area here around $25, was resistance here, here, here. Broke above it, huge volume. Now it's kind of coming back to retest that. So looking to see how this acts around, this 25-ish level that may act as support. And if we can kind of consolidate there and start curling up, this would be one I would get look to get long with a stop under that yellow box. So here's a different trade, just in case things, if there's some selling next week. Small caps have been under a little bit of pressure. They broke this short to intermediate term uptrend line. They failed to make new highs here. You could see in June they made the high. July they couldn't quite get there. Tried a couple more times before selling off pretty substantially there a couple weeks ago. So under a little bit of selling pressure. Longer term still looks fine, but for a potential trade for next week, if things start going bad, I like the inverse of the IWM. You could do the RWM. There's also some leveraged ones as well, but you can set your stop here, 37.50 or so, or if it starts moving up off this 38.25, you can put your stop just under that. But I think if things start turning down at the beginning of the week, I think this is a nice risk reward potentially here in RWM, which is the inverse Russell 2000 ETF. So I think we could get a move here, say up to $40 or so. That's the prior lows there in earlier this year in the winter and the spring. So just some ideas there. Hopefully this helps you out next week, but feel free to reach out if you have any questions. And again, I hope you're having a great weekend, and let's have a nice week next week. Take care.